Welcome back to the LOBLOLLY Pines Publishing Podcast. I'm KJ Duff, and finally, it's time. You've marked your calendars, set your alarms, looked to the skies to see the planets align, waiting ever so patiently for my review on Sylvia Plath's novel, The Bell Jar. Well, wait no longer. The time is fulfilled. Of course, before I get into the review, my dear readers, it pains me to do this, but I'm looking at my book sales report, and it's not even a report. It's a blank sheet of paper. There is no movement. You think I want to keep plugging my book, Halycon, Suicide, in which a nameless young man ponders whether it's possible to live a happy, fulfilling life without an assigned purpose? I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep plugging it. And I'm sure you don't want to keep hearing me say things like, it's available for purchase, just a click away. The links are in the description below. I respect you all too much to keep pushing this. Tell you what, if you buy a book and send me a picture of it to LOBLOLLYPINESPublishing@gmail.com, I will personally send you an email back expressing my gratitude. No, not just my gratitude, my eternal gratitude. Your support is very much appreciated. Anyway, onward to the review of Sylvia Plath's only published novel, The Bell Jar. Esther Greenwood is a brilliant 19-year-old undergraduate student from Boston with many dreams and aspirations. In the summer of 1953, she is awarded an internship in New York working for a magazine called Ladies' Day. Told through a series of flashbacks, Esther recounts her escapades during her time in New York, from comparing herself to the other interns like the adventurous Doreen and the sickeningly sweet, seemingly pious Betsy. Yet, unlike the excited ladies, she finds the entire experience dull and uninspiring. Her stream of consciousness inner monologue gives us full access to her thoughts that often dwell on death, violence, and gender roles in society, all while struggling to find joy in the lifestyle of the big city she's exploring and imagining the many futures she could possibly live. After the internship is over, Esther returns to Boston, where she expects to continue her studies in a writing course taught by a famous author. But as soon as she touches down in Boston, she's informed by her widowed mother that she was not accepted into the course. With her identity in academia shattered, Esther is devastated, and suddenly she unknowingly plummets into a mental abyss, desperately grasping at non-existent walls, trying to halt her freefall. She tries to write a novel, but can't because she convinces herself she doesn't have enough life experience. Her choices, the many bright, exciting possible futures she envisioned for herself, dim and dwindle one by one. And when she looks at the choices she has left before her, motherhood or stenographer like all the women of that time, she is overcome with grief and depression.
Mi hijo does not have depression. He just likes the dark.
Feelings she both recognizes yet doesn't quite grasp the severity of, until it engulfs her completely. Esther's mother tries to pull her out of the spiral by taking her to psychiatrists, but when she doesn't get better, they prescribe her a round of electroconvulsive therapy. Needless to say, it doesn't help. In fact, the procedure leaves her more fearful and her mental state deteriorates at a much more rapid rate. Eventually, and this is not easy to talk about because I'm still not well versed on what I can and cannot say on YouTube, Esther goes through a series of attempts at self-unaliving herself. But when her final attempt nearly succeeds, she is sent to different mental hospitals to get the help she desperately needs to finally begin the climb out of the abyss. It's hard to discuss the story of The Bell Jar because the acclaim for it is often tied to the awful fate of its author, Sylvia Plath. The novel is known as a roman à clef, which is French for novel with a key. In literary context, this means that Sylvia Plath basically recounted events from her personal life, overlaying it with some fiction and changing the names of the people of whom the characters are based upon. The novel was originally published in England on January 14, 1963 by William Heinemann Limited under the pseudonym Victoria Lucas, because Sylvia Plath wanted to protect the people who the characters in the novel are based on and also preserve her reputation as a poet. The book wasn't published under her own name until 1966 and in the United States in 1971, 8 years after her death. On its own, the novel is a good read. As I said before, it relies on the stream of consciousness writing technique, which portrays the character or the characters, oftentimes the main narrators, continuous flow and multitudinous of thought, sensations, and feelings in a raw, unfiltered manner. Think of it as a thought that leads to another thought that leads to another thought. The technique is actually very effective in capturing Esther's shattering mental distress. For me, it was my first time reading a novel with the stream of consciousness technique employed. I've only really known it to be famously associated with James Joyce's Ulysses, which I am working my way up to reading when I feel ready, which will probably be years from now. Years. So this was a good introduction to this style, though if I had to bet, I'm thinking Ulysses is on a higher level. The story is told in 3 acts. Act 1 recounts Esther's time in New York. Act 2 recounts Esther's return back home to Boston and her mental distress. And Act 3, the final act, covers, you thought I was going to say recounts. Act 3 covers her rehabilitation in the mental hospitals. Neither act drags at any moment. There are some racial descriptions in the book that I particularly didn't expect, because anytime you hear about the bell jar, that never comes up, and nor do I care for. I'll give you some examples. Of her time in New York, Esther describes her friend Doreen at one point as, quote, as dusky as a bleached blonde negress, unquote. Then, when describing her, Esther's, reflection in the mirror, she says she sees, quote, a big, smudgy-eyed Chinese woman staring idiotically into my face, unquote. And there's another instance where she says something about yellow skin, referring again to Chinese people. She goes on to describe a potential rape by a Latino man. And then when she's in the mental hospital, she describes a black man who works there in such a grotesque, cartoonish, stereotypical way that I won't even repeat the words. Before I say what I'm about to say, I need you to understand that my issue with the racial stereotypical things in the book is not me being reactionary. It's not me seeing the N-word and automatically discarding the work. I am a rational person, and I can tell when something is being satirical, commenting on the fatuous and man-made, may I remind you, concept of race, and or making a clear observation about the world at that time. When it comes to the bell jar, it is doing none of those things. And I'm going to approach this from a literary standpoint. The novel is not a product of its time, as many of its defenders of the book claim. There are people who argue that Plath was just reflecting the racism of the time. For the kids listening, earmuffs. That is bull. I believe it bears repeating. The book is not a satire like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, and it is not told in the third-person narrative, meaning it wasn't the characters around Esther being racist and kicking a black man in the ass and making him a minstrel show caricature. It was Esther. Remember, this book is a romanically novel. Plath put herself into this, and it has been proven that Plath indeed held racist, anti-Semitic views. The book is a reflection of the world she inhabited, yes, and the people she associated with and the beliefs she held. That's not what irritates me, though, about the racism in the book. It's the fact that those descriptions, those moments of racism, do not add anything of value to the story. It doesn't impact the story, nor does it move the story forward. It seems that Plath goes out of her way to let her readers know how she feels about Asians, Black Americans, or, Americans, Jews, and Hispanics. Oh, and homosexuality, because it is heavily implied that one of the women in the mental institution, when she considers a friend, may be gay, aka earthlings, aka human beings. And this, for me, hurt my perception of the character Esther Greenwood, and subsequently the book. She was no longer a sympathetic character, but a young, privileged, white woman. Let's not forget, she went to New York on a paid internship, and her schooling was financed by a rich woman who is based on a real person who helped Sylvia Plath, who has a mental breakdown and talks about the women in the mental hospital she attends like they're in a country club until things get really real. Even the self-unaliving attempts, when you step back and really think about it, you find yourself asking, yeah, but why though? For a long time, I've heard that this book is a feminist book. I am a man, so I won't attempt to prove or disprove that statement. I will say that I can see why people believe it. There are pockets in the book where Esther does ponder the societal norms by which men and women are expected to adhere, and it's in these moments that the book shines. But I will also say those moments are very few and far in between. Sylvia Plath's life was wrought with mental health issues and clinical depression. She left this earth at a young 30 by unaliving herself. The facts are well documented, but if you don't know, I won't say how because the details are depressing. Ask Siri or whatever Google AI's assistant's name is if you're interested. I don't want that to be the focus of this review. Like I always say, read novels, good ones, bad ones. You don't know you're reading a good or bad novel until you open it and start. I don't regret reading The Bell Jar. Despite the negative aspects I can't ignore and know what should justify, the story is told well, the structure is cleverly crafted, and though the novel ends in a somewhat cliffhanger, it is a satisfying ending. However, the unnecessary racist moments and descriptions that did nothing to move the story, plot, or be a catalyst for character growth taint the heart of the story and ultimately soured my reading experience. If you decide to read this novel, you can at least go in knowing what to expect. And I think that about does it for this review. I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect this was going to be the review I was going to give. But alas, here we are. I don't mind reading older novels by writers from certain time periods because it is a reminder of how not so far removed we are from that time and how these issues are as relevant today as they were in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. And agree with the author or not, the world they craft is a reflection of not just the physical world they inhabit, but also how they mentally perceive it. You can't expect to write about an alien if you've never met one. You can only imagine what it would be like, and if you hate and are fearful of the concept of aliens, you will make them the scariest, snarliest, dangerous creatures to ever invade Earth. And if you are curious, you'll make them mysterious and wondrous. I'm going to end the episode here before I go down a road I'm not ready to go. I hope you all enjoyed the review. If you've read The Bell Jar, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I trust you all to be respectful. You don't need me to say it. Before I let you go, check out my novel Halcyon Suicide. I won't go through the whole circus act. The link is in the description below. I really appreciate any support you're willing to give. I'm currently reading Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. I'm 4 chapters in, and I already want to commit harakiri. It is so dense and rich. I have to brace myself every time I decide to open the book and read the next chapter. This one is a bit longer than The Bell Jar. It may take me a bit longer to get the review up, so if you haven't yet, listen to the other episodes to hold you over. Until then, I've been KJ Duff. I love you, my fellow readers. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned to the LOBLOLLY Pines Publishing Podcast. Talk to you soon. Hey, can I even say harakiri on YouTube? I don't want to get monetized. Not that I know what monetized means, but I'm assuming that means that, like, it's going to hurt my pockets. I ain't trying to hurt my pockets, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get that paper, son. You feel me? Okay? I'm trying to get that bag, honey. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? You feel me? What? What's that? We're still recording?